Let's take a look at 5 long-forgotten cakes that belong in your repertoire. First up is the icebox cake, which dates back to the 1920s and is less of a traditional cake and more of a layered dessert. The concept is simple. Layer thin cookies and whipped cream in a casserole dish, refrigerate until it sets, and serve. As it chills, the cookies soften into the cream and the whole thing becomes sliceable. It's a no-bake, no-fuss dessert that's pretty hard to pass up. From the same era comes the chiffon cake, which sits somewhere between a sponge cake and an angel food cake. The key difference is that a chiffon cake uses oil instead of butter, which gives it a slightly lighter crunch. The recipe was created by a man named Terry Baker, an almost suspiciously fitting last name, who developed it in the 1920s before eventually selling the recipe to General Mills. It was then published under the Betty Crocker brand in 1940, which is when it really took off. Coming in at number 3, hot milk cake has a similarly practical origin story. Dating back to the early 1900s, it rose to popularity during wartime, when ingredient-conscious recipes were a necessity rather than a choice. The recipe could even be made with powdered milk, making it accessible to just about anyone. What makes it worth revisiting today, though, is its versatility. Serve it plain, frosted, or use it as the base for a Boston cream pie. The possibilities are endless. Then there's the Sock It To Me cake, a Duncan Hines creation from the 1970s that starts with a box of yellow cake mix. Sour cream goes into the batter, and the cake is then built in a bundt pan with a ribbon of pecans, brown sugar, and cinnamon running through the middle. It's simple and satisfying, and pairs incredibly well with a hot cup of coffee for a well-deserved afternoon pick-me-up. The most surprising contender, however, has got to be the mahogany cake. Dating back to the 1800s, it's the direct predecessor to both red velvet and chocolate cake as we know them today. It shares red velvet's use of vinegar, but without the signature red color, and has a mild chocolate flavor that stops short of being too rich or overwhelming. Traditionally, mahogany cake is served with ermine frosting, a cooked flour and butter frosting that's both beginner-friendly and closer in texture to store-bought. A piece of baking history most dessert enthusiasts probably haven't tasted, but with a flavor profile that sits right between two of the most beloved cakes in existence. So while a classic red velvet definitely has its place, these 5 old-school recipes make a pretty strong argument that modern-day bakers might have been missing out on some winners for a long time.